How many of you saw the Christmas star this week? We're lucky to live somewhere that wasn't cloud covered. I was reading about it on the internet, looking for more information on its appearance around the time of Jesus' birth. One of the more popular theories is that the Star of Bethlehem was a series of conjunctions between Jupiter and Saturn in 7 BC. In that year, Jupiter and Saturn met not once, but 3 times in May, September, and December, beckoning the travelers. Another possibility is the conjunction of Jupiter and Venus in 3 BC. Or maybe it was a broom star or a comet noted by Chinese astronomers in the sky in 5 BC. We don't really know what it was, or even if it really was. The star and the magi who followed it are only mentioned in one gospel, Matthew's. Luke gives us most of the rest of the story that the youth retold us and we sang tonight. The census that required Joseph and Mary to travel to Bethlehem, the stable behind the crowded inn, the shepherds tending their flocks by night, and the angels singing, and of course the baby, swaddled in cloths and laid in a manger. The Christmas story, as it has been handed down to us, is what one of my seminary professors called gospel soup. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, add in some beautiful images for atmosphere. Over the centuries, that basic soup has been seasoned, and other courses have been added to the Christmas feast. Pageantry, carols, candlelight, and other traditions that make the whole Christmas season feel magical. This year's Christmas star has been a reminder of the magic of Christmas in a year that has sorely lacked magic. The star that heralded Jesus' birth, appearing to us in our pandemic year, connects us on some deep level to the pilgrimage of the Magi and to the reason for their journey. To find a baby who would one day be a king like no other. That baby was born away from his parents' home. Mary and Joseph were on their own type of pilgrimage when he was born. It was not a pilgrimage they chose, but one imposed upon them by the Roman Empire. We are on a sort of pilgrimage ourselves, aren't we? Away from our church building. We find ourselves lodging not in a stable, but in our own homes, using this magical platform called Zoom. It is not the comfortable, cozy, candlelit sanctuary that we long for. And yet, this is where we come, to bow down in wonder before Jesus tonight. I'm sure Mary and Joseph wished to be home for their child's birth. Yet when Jesus came, they found they had what they needed and they managed, just as we are doing this year. Their joy and wonder in this new life was not diminished, although they may have had some worries they wouldn't have had otherwise. The essential thing is that God came into the world as one displaced. God became incarnate, a human, displaced from heaven, away from the familiar and the comfortable and the safe. Of course, Jesus was born in a stable. It was about the farthest thing from heaven. And while Jesus had a home growing up, his ministry was spent on the road, traveling far and wide to spread the good news of God's love in some of the least expected places. Spreading the good news of God's love, not by sprinkling magic holy dust wherever he went, but rather by telling people everywhere that God's love was already present with them, awakening them to its transformative healing power. Go in peace, your faith has made you whole. That is good news in any place and time. It is particularly good news in times like these, when we cannot go to the places we most associate with holiness, like our church. God is with us wherever we are. There is no place we can go where we are beyond God's love for us. Many of you have creches in your homes. Even if you don't, I hope you can imagine that there is a place for Jesus right where you are. When this service is over, we will not blow out the candles, put out the lights, and lock the doors to the church as we have in other years. We will not be leaving Jesus in the creche at church. We will be turning off our screens and looking around at our familiar homes, newly aware, I hope, of the presence of holiness. The mystery of the incarnation has come into our very own homes to dwell. Jesus doesn't need anything fancy. He doesn't wait for us to have it all together. Jesus is happy to be at home wherever we are. He won't criticize the decorations. He will say, all the food is delicious. If a stable is good enough, we are good enough. Jesus wants nothing more than to find a home with us where he is welcomed and loved, and where we are willing to look on him with awe and wonder. We often hear in Advent, keep awake. This Christmas, may we awaken again to the transformative power of God's love in our lives. May we welcome Jesus, who joins us where we are and works on us from the inside out to make our rough hearts shine with God's glory, making us into living, breathing Christmas stars, testifying to God's love for the world. Amen.